You wake up, you walk into the quiet kitchen, you fill up your plastic kettle with tap water, you flick the switch down. You stand there listening to the familiar, comforting rumble as the heating element fires up. You watch the water bubble and roll against the clear synthetic window. You reach for your favorite mug. You are looking forward to that beautiful, warming first cup of the day to get your stiff joints moving. Stop right there. Look very closely at what that rolling, violently boiling water is physically touching. You are doing the biological equivalent of buying premium, hand-picked, antioxidant-rich tea leaves and brewing them directly inside a melted car tire. That modern synthetic casing is not just passively holding your water, it is actively participating in a chemical reaction. Under the extreme, relentless heat of boiling, the intricate polymer chains making up that cheap plastic begin to physically warp, splinter, and fracture at a microscopic level. The material violently sheds. It releases a massive avalanche of invisible nanoplastics directly into your morning drink. We're not talking about a few stray, harmless specks floating around in your mug. Researchers studying modern household appliances using high-powered lasers found something truly horrifying. A single cup of water boiled in these synthetic containers can contain millions of microscopic plastic particles. Millions! It is not your fault you do this every single morning. These plastic kettles are incredibly cheap to manufacture. They are wonderfully lightweight for aging wrists to lift. They do not shatter into 1,000 dangerous pieces when you accidentally drop them on the kitchen tiles. They are sold in every single home goods store, supermarket, and discount shop across the entire country. They look completely harmless. They sit there on your kitchen bench, often painted in lovely pastel colors to match your toaster. Most people eventually hear a rumor about plastics and think the solution is just to swap to any standard cheap metal kettle from the same discount aisle, but they often end up leaching cheap industrial heavy metals into their water instead, creating an entirely different biological disaster. Stay with me. At the end of this video, I will show you the exact 2-minute preparation method and the specific non-negotiable material you must use to preserve 100% of your water's purity. Plus, I will share a simple, natural morning trick using a common botanical to flush these synthetic blockers straight out of your brain tissue. To understand why this kitchen habit matters so much, we need to look deeply at how your aging brain manages rest. Deep inside the center of your brain sits a tiny, highly specialized, pea-sized organ. It is called the pineal gland. It is the sole producer of melatonin in your central nervous system. Think of it as a master conductor. It stands in front of your entire biological sleep orchestra, waving the baton. When it is healthy, soft, and functioning properly, you get deep, restorative, uninterrupted rest. You transition smoothly through the essential healing stages of sleep. You hit that crucial rapid eye movement cycle where your mind processes the day. You wake up feeling incredibly sharp. During this deep sleep phase, your brain physically shrinks by up to 20%. It opens up wide channels so your internal fluid can literally wash through the tissue. It scrubs away the heavy metabolic waste and cellular debris generated during your waking hours. This deep internal washing cycle is absolutely critical for anyone over the age of 50. It maintains your cognitive sharpness. It keeps your short-term memory crystal clear. It supports a robust, responsive immune system that protects you from daily environmental stressors. When this tiny gland is compromised, the entire biological system misfires spectacularly. You toss, you turn, you wake up at 3 in the morning feeling like you have not slept a single wink. You drag your heavy body out of bed. You reach for another strong cup of coffee just to force your heavy eyelids open. The cycle repeats itself. This is not just about feeling a bit tired or grumpy in the late afternoon. This is about your physical body losing its fundamental built-in ability to heal and regenerate. Sleep is the only time when your brain does the heavy, essential house cleaning. It sweeps out the cellular rubbish. It organizes your scattered memories. It repairs damaged muscle tissues and soothes inflamed joints. If you constantly interrupt that washing process, the microscopic rubbish builds up in your tissues. You start feeling physically heavy, as if you were walking through thick mud all day. Your joints ache far more than usual. Your patience with your loved ones wears incredibly thin. You snap at your family over minor inconveniences. You forget where you put your car keys or what you walked into a room to fetch. You assume this is just normal aging. It is not. It is exactly what a chemically disrupted, artificially blocked sleep cycle feels like. And your incredibly convenient, cheap kitchen kettle is playing a massive, hidden role in this daily biological disruption. The pineal gland is entirely unique in human anatomy. It sits right outside the highly protective blood-brain barrier. Think of the blood-brain barrier like a highly trained, ruthless security guard. It stands firmly at the door. It checks the credentials of every molecule, stopping dangerous environmental toxins from getting inside your delicate brain tissue. But the pineal gland does not have this elite protection. It sits completely exposed out on the street corner outside the nightclub. This is a critical biological detail. Because of its massive workload, it demands and absorbs a uniquely high volume of blood flow to function properly. This means it indiscriminately absorbs absolutely whatever is floating in your bloodstream at any given moment. When you boil water in plastic, the intense heat acts as a violent solvent. Water at 100 degrees Celsius is highly energetic and forcefully reacts with the synthetic plastic casing. It physically degrades the polymer walls. It forces the plastic to release an absolute avalanche of microscopic, invisible particles into your clear water. You drink your morning tea. These tiny particles travel rapidly down your throat. They enter your stomach acid. They cross directly through your intestinal walls and into your fast-flowing bloodstream. Within mere minutes, they're pumped straight up to your totally unprotected pineal gland. These plastics carry potent endocrine disruptors. Think of these synthetic chemicals like cleverly cut counterfeit keys. They jam themselves brutally into your brain's delicate, complex cellular locks. They physically block the real, natural hormones from turning the biological engine on. Your body desperately tries to initiate sleep. It sends the signals, but the receptors are completely clogged by this invisible synthetic sludge. Now, listen closely to this next part, because it changes everything about how you look at your kitchen appliances. The plastic kettle is quietly jamming your sleep hormones. But if you think a bit of lost sleep and some morning grogginess is the only danger here, you are missing the bigger picture entirely. The real, lasting catastrophe happens when this daily dose of plastic chemically hardens your actual brain tissue over time. You look at the bottom of your shiny modern kettle, it proudly displays a green leaf sticker and says BPA-Free. You breathe a sigh of relief. You think you are completely safe. You think you have made the educated, healthy choice for your family's well-being. You probably paid a premium price for it. The biological reality is far more deceptive and frustrating. Manufacturers simply replaced the banned BPA with new chemicals called BPS or BPF. It is the exact same underlying chemical structure doing the exact same biological damage. They just altered a few microscopic molecules. They gave it a slightly different scientific name to bypass basic consumer protection regulations. This clever legal loophole allows them to keep selling cheap, highly profitable plastic without spending millions changing their massive factory pipelines. Do you feel completely cheated by the modern appliance industry tricking us with these fake health labels? These hidden, renamed chemicals completely confuse your body's delicate internal communication network. They closely mimic your natural hormones. They send chaotic, false signals to your vital organs, triggering a massive, exhausting biological stress response. It is a terrible trade-off. It is the biological equivalent of replacing a burglar who cleverly picks your front door lock with a burglar who simply smashes through the back window. Your house still gets completely robbed. The damage is still deeply done. Ditching these hidden plastics supports a much more vigorous, clear-headed, and energized morning routine. Your body genuinely wants to sleep deeply and heal itself. It desperately craves that heavy, uninterrupted rest. We just need to stop feeding it industrial chemicals. We need to stop swallowing the exact compounds that artificially keep our nervous system wired and awake. We have completely normalized drinking hot liquids out of synthetic, laboratory-made materials. 50 years ago, kettles were made of fixed, solid metal. They sat heavily on a cast-iron stovetop. They whistled loudly when they were ready. Now, we use incredibly cheap plastic jugs with exposed heating coils glued haphazardly to the bottom. We traded our long-term vitality for a few minutes of modern convenience. It is time to take that control back into our own hands. So, your brain is being silently flooded with synthetic counterfeit keys every time you have a cup of tea. But all this knowledge is completely useless if you make one fatal mistake with how you manage the water inside that kettle. When these synthetic chemicals enter your bloodstream, they severely disrupt your body's natural, delicate calcium routine. Calcium is absolutely essential for a healthy, active life. You need it constantly for strong, dense bones. You need it for proper, smooth muscle contraction. But it belongs in very specific, targeted places within your anatomy. These rogue synthetic chemicals floating in your blood actively attract free-floating calcium ions. This is the exact precious mineral meant to rebuild your aging, fragile bones. Instead, it gets hijacked. It gets deposited directly onto the soft, unprotected tissue of your pineal gland. In biological terms, we call this destructive process pineal calcification. These synthetic chemicals bind tightly with heavy metals and minerals found in standard municipal tap water. They form a hard, microscopic crust.
Imagine pouring thick, fast-setting industrial concrete directly over a delicate spinning garden sprinkler. The essential melatonin is trapped deep inside the mechanism. The biological water simply cannot get out to nourish the garden. This hardened, calcified shell physically prevents your brain from signaling that it is time to rest. Think about an old mate who wakes up at 3 in the morning every single night without fail. He stares blankly at the dark ceiling. He blames his aging prostate. He blames his stressful job. He blames a sagging mattress. He spends thousands of hard-earned dollars on memory foam pillows and heavy blankets. He tries deep breathing exercises. He strictly cuts out all television screen time an hour before bed. Yet, he drinks 6 cups of instant coffee a day. He brews every single cup using a cheap, degrading plastic office kettle that has been sitting on the break room counter for 5 years. His chronological age is not waking him up in the dark. His calcified, hardened sleep center is. The concrete shell around his pineal gland is simply too thick. His brain is desperately trying to drip that soothing melatonin into his central nervous system to keep him deeply asleep. But the delicate sprinkler is completely blocked by mineralized crust. The hormone absolutely cannot flow. He wakes up with a sudden, anxious jolt. His heart is racing uncomfortably in his chest. His mind immediately starts running through a stressful, endless list of tomorrow's chores. He cannot get back to sleep. And while your brain is constantly struggling to release melatonin through that hardened shell, your innocent daily kitchen habits are actually multiplying with toxins. Here is exactly why this happens. You are leaving yesterday's unused water sitting in the kettle overnight. You just flick the switch and reboil it the next morning. You think you are saving precious water. You think you are saving valuable time. This is a massive biological mistake. Type a plus in the comments if you often reboil yesterday's water, or a minus if you always pour it down the sink. Every single time stagnant water sits against those synthetic polymer walls and is reheated, the concentration of leached nanoplastics multiplies exponentially. Think about how you make a rich, heavy reduction sauce in cooking. You simmer the stock down over a low heat. The pure water slowly evaporates into the air. The rich flavor gets dramatically stronger. The salt gets much more heavily concentrated in the pan. The exact same physical laws apply to your kitchen kettle. When water reaches a rolling boil, the pure, clean H2O evaporates up through the spout as steam.
This entirely natural process leaves behind a much higher, denser concentration of the leached chemicals in the remaining puddle of water. The intense, repeated heat degrades the plastic further. It physically strips away layer after microscopic layer of synthetic industrial compounds. You were no longer just boiling fresh morning water for a nice cup of Earl Grey. You were condensing the chemical load. You were creating a highly concentrated, toxic dose of endocrine disruptors. You top it up with a tiny bit of fresh tap water from the sink. You boil it all over again. You were creating a thick, invisible chemical soup. Remember that 2-minute morning trick I promised to share earlier to flush out these blockers? It is physically impossible for that gentle botanical trick to work if you are swallowing yesterday's concentrated plastic soup. So, reboiling stagnant water turns your comforting morning cuppa into a heavy chemical burden for your brain. You are starting your day by willingly drinking the absolute worst, most concentrated part of the plastic degradation process. You must stop doing this immediately, starting tomorrow morning. Every time you want a cup of tea, you must use fresh water. But knowing what kettle to throw away and how to properly boil fresh water is only half the battle. The real secret is how to actively reverse this hardening process using a specific everyday botanical. How do we support the body in clearing out this stubborn microscopic calcification? We use the wisdom of traditional nutritional chemistry. Introduce pure tamarind into your routine, or you can use a high-quality iodine source like organic kelp. Tamarind is a wonderfully sticky, deeply sour fruit. It grows in large brown pods on magnificent shade trees in tropical climates. It has been used extensively in traditional cooking and village medicine for centuries. Modern science now shows exactly why it works. It contains unique, naturally occurring acidic compounds. It is heavily packed with a substance called malic acid. These specific compounds actively support the gentle excretion of excess fluoride and rogue calcium deposits from your soft tissues. Malic acid is absolutely brilliant. It acts as a powerful natural chelator in the bloodstream. Think of it as a biological rust remover for your internal organs. It possesses a unique claw-like molecular structure that grabs on to heavy metals and rogue minerals. It gently dissolves the concrete shell. It washes away the hardened crust from that delicate garden sprinkler in your brain. It allows the sprinkler to spin freely and smoothly once again. The natural melatonin can finally flow unimpeded into your system. Real, potent, natural products are incredibly hard to find now.
Where are you watching from? And what do pure botanical extracts usually cost in your local shops? Try adding a tiny, single splash of pure tamarind extract to your very first glass of warm morning water. Drink this entirely on an empty stomach. Do not mix it with refined white sugar. Do not mix it with artificial chemical sweetness. Just use pure, clean, warm water to activate the compounds. You can also add a tiny pinch of high-quality Celtic sea salt. This specific, unrefined salt provides over 80 essential trace minerals that your nervous system desperately needs. This incredibly simple, ancient habit perfectly primes your internal system for the day ahead. It deeply hydrates your sleeping cells. It flushes your entire digestive tract of overnight waste. It jumpstarts the gentle daily process of decalcification before you encounter any modern stressors. It does all of this before you even think about having your first real cup of tea or coffee. It takes exactly 2 minutes of your morning. It costs almost nothing compared to expensive sleep supplements, but the long-term structural support it provides to your brain and your vitality is absolutely massive. So, your internal system is primed to dissolve the calcium crust. But this entire beautiful morning ritual is completely sabotaged if you buy the wrong type of replacement hardware for your kitchen. What do you replace the old plastic kettle with? This is where most well-meaning people make a critical, expensive error. Do not simply buy cheap, lightweight aluminium. Aluminium heats up incredibly fast, but it is highly reactive with water. It leaches its own set of neurological problems. Do not buy kettles with fancy, dark, non-stick coatings on the inside. Those chemical coatings inevitably blister and chip away over time under the stress of boiling. They end up floating as dark specks in your morning mug. You must use high-quality borosilicate glass, or use 100% solid, surgical-grade stainless steel. Specifically, look for grade 304 or 316 stainless steel on the packaging. These specific metallurgical grades are incredibly stable under high repeated thermal stress. They do not pit, they do not rust, they absolutely do not leach any metallic taste into your perfectly clean water. They hold your water perfectly pure, exactly as nature intended it. But here is the crucial, non-negotiable check. You must perform this physical inspection before you hand over your money. Open the lid of the shiny new steel kettle right there in the middle of the shop. Look strictly inside the chamber. Feel the internal walls with your fingers. Look very closely at the convenient water level window on the side. Look at the complex hinge holding the heavy lid together.
Look at the fine mesh filter sitting right behind the pouring spout. If any of those internal parts are made of plastic, do not buy it. Boiling water touching even a tiny piece of plastic ruins the entire biological effort. Manufacturers love to build a beautiful, expensive steel kettle and then glue a cheap, flimsy plastic window on the side just so you can watch the water bubbling. The violently boiling water hits that plastic window, it leaches those exact same endocrine-disrupting chemicals right back into your pure drink. You have completely wasted your money and your time. You must find a kettle where the boiling water touches absolutely nothing but pure, unyielding glass or pure solid steel. It might cost a little more money up front, it might take a bit more physical effort to track down a truly plastic-free model, but it is a one-time vital investment in your daily health. It sits cleanly and safely on your benchtop for a decade without degrading. By the way, do you prefer to store your fresh drinking water chilling in the fridge or sitting at room temperature on the benchtop? Let's debate this in the comments below. Tomorrow morning, take a hard look at your plastic kettle. Empty the old stagnant water completely down the drain. Throw the degrading jug straight into the recycling bin without a second thought. Buy a solid, heavy glass or pure steel replacement. Fill it strictly with fresh, filtered water from the tap. Boil it once, pour it steaming hot into a heavy, comforting ceramic mug. Add your small drop of pure tamarind or add a fresh, generous squeeze of organic lemon juice to act as your biological rust remover. If you make this one incredibly simple, foundational swap in your kitchen, you instantly stop the invisible chemical assault on your brain. You fiercely protect your delicate sleep center. You halt the daily, exhausting dose of synthetic sludge entering your bloodstream. You finally give your hard-working body the exact, clean tools it needs to repair the cellular damage. You will slowly invite back that deep, restorative, uninterrupted rest. You thought you left that kind of sleep behind in your easy 30s. You will wake up feeling physically light and mentally sharp. You will wake up feeling genuinely ready to tackle the day. You will reclaim your mornings. If this deep dive into your daily habits interested you, you will absolutely love this next topic. Swish beetroot juice in your mouth for 60 seconds before swallowing. It reveals exactly how interacting with the specific natural bacteria living on your tongue converts raw nitrates into pure nitric oxide, instantly opening up tight blood vessels and supporting healthy circulation. It is another incredibly simple, cost-effective daily habit that yields massive, undeniable results for your overall long-term well-being. This information is strictly educational to support your daily vitality. Never change your doctor's medical treatment without their consent. Take care of your health, look after your family, and I will see you next time.